it. And we also moved into places that nobody wanted, that were not being maintained. That would include squats, some of which still remain. Some of the private-owned buildings, and then also some of the homesteads. So what we're doing here today is we want to bring people together because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of challenging things happening with rapid gentrification. Peter and I, Kembra, who will be speaking today, our friend and colleague Carl George, and Stephen Englander, who's here in the audience, are all associated with ABC No Rio. ABC No Rio was started by a group called Collaborative Projects Inc. Also, Richard Armijo is a No Rio alumni. So what we feel is that there's a lot of congealing with our backgrounds and histories, but we feel that the political climate is driving us apart. So what we want to do is we want to begin a process where we are actually able to work and build and play together. So, you know, rather than go through these divisive mentalities.
Prepared remarks. Someone timing it. 5 minutes, so he only gets 5 minutes.
Residential issues from
I was only at a minute 35.
We're seeing it as all one collective life, one collective pool. And it is challenging, but the other thing that we want to do is we want to talk about our successes, and more importantly, we want to talk about how we can continue to succeed, because we're here. We've lost a lot. A lot of things have gone down. A lot of people have been evicted. A lot of institutions have closed. But there's still the flavor and the life and the vitality of the Lower East Side. And so that's really what we're going to bring to the fore, is what we can do to stay here and to continue to develop and thrive. So we've got some really amazing speakers who are also interconnected to our struggle and our challenge. And I think I would like, if you're ready, to start with Shafraq Islam. Shafraq represents the Urban Justice Center, which has been our major legal support for what's going on in our building. And the tenants of our building will talk to you about that. So Shafraq, if you take some mic.
Thank you, Shafraq. Tea.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me in the back? I'm with the Urban Justice Center, specifically the Community Development Project, and we work with groups like the good old Lower East Side, GOLD. We have Carlina here from GOLD today. And what we do is we work with groups all over the city, including GOLD, that are organizing low-income tenants and tenants from other marginalized communities in standing up, being able to assert their rights, and in a broader sense, fight the wave of gentrification that's sweeping all over New York City. I won't take up too much of your time because I feel that the most important things that can be said today have to be said by you guys, the tenants, the organizers, the forces on the ground. What we do is we provide the legal assistance, the technical know-how, if you ever run into any issues that you feel you might need a lawyer for. So we work with tenants associations such as the one at 245 East 2nd Street. We work with actually a lot of different buildings around here because the Lower East Side, as you all know, is very emblematic of the struggle to maintain affordable housing that we are seeing all over New York City. In some ways, as Jack said, some battles have been lost. Many battles have also been won, and it remains to be seen, how things turn out 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and what our legacy will be in New York. So for me, I see what's happening in New York City as an economic thing more than anything else. Housing, to me, I think to all of us, is something that we feel should be a basic human right. Every human being, every resident of New York, everywhere, should have the right to affordable, sustainable, and habitable accommodations. In New York, unfortunately, it seems that housing is being treated more as a commodity, that is to be bought and sold, to be traded for the highest profit possible. And what that has caused is caused this seemingly irreconcilable conflict between human rights and economics, and we are still struggling to figure out how best to resolve that conflict. If it weren't for the objectification of housing, for the commodification of housing, how else to explain that there are 31,000 evictions in New York every year? That's an average of 85 evictions per day, 85 households, 85 families being forcibly removed from their homes. How to explain that every day in New York, landlords are filing 676 cases every day against tenants, of which at least 85 a day lead to evictions, and who knows how many more lead to voluntary surrenders of apartments. The average rent, I looked this up last night. According to a recent study, the average rent in New York City is $3,017 a month. That's the average rent, which works out to an average of, $36,000 a year on rent alone. I'm willing to bet that in the Lower East Side, the average rent is probably something higher than $3,017. Homelessness is exploding all over New York. And landlords are just becoming more and more creative with the strategies that they use to evict tenants and to contribute to this force of gentrification. I've worked as a lawyer in housing court for 8-9 years now, and it never ceases to surprise me how crafty and how shady landlords can get in coming up with new techniques to evict tenants. Harassment is one of the most common techniques that landlords use. They just harass tenants until the tenants eventually get fed up and are left with no choice but to move out of the apartments. Illegal rent increases. As we know, it used to be that most housing around here used to be rent stabilized. That's a shrinking number now, but rent stabilized tenants are guaranteed a certain level of minimal increases every year. Landlords would jack that up and hope that tenants never caught on, or if they did, they would not know what to do about it. Landlords routinely offer tenants buyouts. I've seen buyouts as low as $500 for long-term tenants. Some tenants, if they're lucky, can negotiate something in the several $1,000s range, but unless you really have good legal representation and a lot of leverage, you really won't get compensated for having to move out of your long-term homes. And, how can you afford a $3,000 apartment if you've been paying $500 or $1,000 a month? It's pretty much impossible. But landlords are very, very crafty at using the temptation of short-term money in your pocket to get long-term tenants out. Landlords routinely neglect basic repairs, basic services. The building next door is a perfect example, and the tenants who are here, I'm sure, will share many stories about that. Landlords sabotage their buildings routinely. I was working on a building on Avenue B where the landlord knowingly let the building fall into disrepair to the point that all the tenants had to be moved out by the fire department. And now the landlord is making luxury units out of what used to be rent-stabilized apartments. I can go on and on with the bad side, with what landlords do, but there's so much that we can do, though, as folks involved in the tenant movement, as tenants, as tenant lawyers, as advocates, as organizers. We need to organize, we need to agitate, we need to speak up, we need to help each other, we need to know what our rights are, we need to stand up and speak out. I'm not an expert on those, obviously. You guys are, so I'll turn the floor over to, I think, Carlina Rivera, my colleague at Goals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much. And I just do want to remind, like in this theme of connectivity, that the building next door is where I live. Me and Peter, who will also be speaking, are guardians and founders of this garden. So there are these interconnecting factors, but without further ado, Carlina is going to talk to you about Goals, good old Lower East Side. Also, we will be distributing a resource list of various places and contacts that you can go to for various areas of support. But I'll let Carlina talk about Goals, which is how we came to Urban Justice Center.
Thank you.
Good morning. I just want to say thank you so much to Jack and Peter and Allied Productions and the Garden and everyone here you're probably my neighbors. This is really cool for me because I actually live in this building directly behind me for the past 30 years. So it's really important that I'm here with all of you. and that we fight for affordable housing, including rent-regulated and subsidized housing, which I live in to this day. So this is a great example of the grassroots movements that we've all seen throughout the decades and that we live in every day for social and economic equality. Those are terms that we hear, and a lot of people say that that's a very tall order, social and economic equality. But I don't think any activist ever enters into these fights, into these struggles, without knowing that change may not happen overnight, but we're going to fight every single day for these little victories. And I think that's really important to remember, that while we may experience losses as a group, collectively, we actually do have a lot of wins. And that's something to celebrate. So I'm very glad that Jack kind of reminded me before I came up here to speak to you, that we really want to kind of also focus on the positive, like Shafak said, which was a very tough act to follow. Shafak, you dropped some truth bombs today and some statistics that really is going to make me go back to goals and think about what else we can do to keep people in their homes and in this community, because we fight landlord harassment. I work with seniors, and to know what landlords are doing to seniors and to long-term residents is disgraceful. And you know, I'm aggravated and I get angry, but it kind of just keeps me going. So I think that some of our victories is to keeping these public spaces, these gardens. Is also access to other green spaces like the waterfront. That's something I'm very passionate about. I don't think a lot of residents feel like they're welcomed at the waterfront and in some of these spaces that seem a little bit too exclusive. And something at Goals, we always like to remind people that we're an inclusive community, it's an inclusive organization, and we welcome people coming to this neighborhood as long as they respect the work that we've all done and they treat everyone else with dignity. So at Goals, we always encourage residents to make changes in their home. So we all know that we have to worry about, you know, everyday responsibilities and repairs, which we assist people with you know, help from Urban Justice Center and other legal organizations who without them we wouldn't be able to win nearly half the battles that we do. But so you start in your building, then you go to your block, then you go to your neighborhood, and then you go to your city. That's the only way to do it. You got to start right with yourself and in your apartment, and then that'll grow. That'll grow to a citywide and national efforts. And that's really important. We try to have this long-term agenda and see the big picture. And it can be a little difficult at times, but we just have to really remain positive and know that working together we can really accomplish a lot of things. So the great thing is that the residents of East 2nd Street and this building next door really and truly exhibit the spirit of the Lower East Side or Lower East Sider. Just fighters, educating people on their rights, working collectively for repairs, to be treated with respect, and also just speaking out against injustice. I know that that's something that a lot of people recognize every single day. You see it, you want to help a neighbor, you want to help somebody out. That's what we try to do at Goals. We try to organize residents around issues affecting their quality of life. That includes displacement, that includes retail diversity. I know we have people here that fight to kind of keep the bars and restaurants at bay, because as we know, we really can't, you know, they say the cobblers and the bakers and the candlestick makers, I don't know of any in the kind of block radius. So it's just too bad. So those people really fight every day. And retail diversity is also not something easy to accomplish, and I give everyone a lot of credit. So in response to this rapid and ongoing gentrification, that's an uphill battle. And so at Goals, we like to say we approach our mission in preventing displacement through one-on-one services. So that's housing assistance, benefits, help for seniors, career services, because it really rings true. I think that Shafak hit the nail on the head, that this is an economic development issue as well. There aren't any jobs, and also the people with power, kind of like these corporate powers, they're constantly trying to keep us down. And really we need good jobs, and we need homes, and we need to contribute to the economic development of this community. So we work to create and preserve affordable housing, also to stop harassment which, as you know, is extremely difficult, and to preserve green spaces and keep pretty much the goods and services in this community low. There are still a lot of low-income tenants here. So I'm really proud to be here and stand with neighbors and allies and working towards the same goal and celebrating the victories and remembering kind of, you know, where we need to go and what we need to do. And I'm at Goals. The door is always open. I live across the street. It's going to be a little hard to find me because there's 171 apartments in that building. And you can come see me at my office. I'm Carlina Rivera. I'm very happy to be here. And thank you to everyone who put this together.
Thank you, Carlina. Thank you.
With an advocate like that, we have no problem. I forgot to mention Philly also in my ABC No Rio alumni roster. And I bring it up particularly because there's something that's going on. Was a recent exhibition at James Fuentes Gallery, and then continues now at ABC No Rio at Cuchi Frutas Gallery at the Essex Street Market, which is also. But it's a
the lodge.
It's a reenactment of something called the Real Estate Show. This was an action that was done in 1979, 1980. That was brought about by this group Collaborative Projects Inc. to bring attention to the inequities of what was going on with real estate development and gentrification. And at the time, Collab, which was the spawn of ABC No Rio, because of the real estate show, ABC No Rio was born. But there was something that we were referred to as the 25-year plan. That was his plan for the development of this whole area. And it was something that was in process going on in city administration's collusion between real estate developers and city businesses. And so that 25-year plan actually seems to have spanned out to a 30-year plan. It kind of got a little delayed along the way. But this is now what we're calling SPURA, the Seward Park Urban
Renewal.
Seward Park
Urban Renewal Area. Urban Renewal Area, SPURA. So again, kind of connecting the past to the present with an eye to the future. But that in mind, we're also bringing this down into the local and the personal as I introduce Philly. And Philly's going to talk to us about her own building, which is on Ridge Street, and what your building is doing. So let's welcome Philly to the mic. Bellissimo! Felicidades.
Hello, fun seekers. I would like to invite you to an event. We're going to have a march on Saturday at noon at 7th and A. It's against Croman.
When is it?
It's on Saturday.
This Saturday?
This Saturday. And we want you to march with us. But we're marching for all anti-gentrification that we can get our hands on. We need more anti-gentrification. We have far too much gentrification in this area. And we have to do something about it. And we can't do it by being afraid. Even if you're a reluctant warrior, you got to stand strong. Screw it. You really have to stand up against the motherfuckers.
Yeah!
Yay!
Yeah! Yeah!
Let me hear some yay!
Yeah!
We have to stand united. I started out here living on this stage of ABC No Rio when Jack and Peter were living in the basement, and the summer that the Post had a picture of a rat with human-sized ears. Oh my God, they're trying to infiltrate.
They're already here.
So I've been here, we've gone through a struggle. Urban justice and goals, 3 cheers for them!
Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
And Wasim, who's not here, who's a true warrior. But we started out with death threats and no heat and broken windows. And after several years, we finally started with goals, and with urban justice, they got us a 7A, which meant that they totally got rid of our building, and then they gave it back to the heirs of my landlords, and they sold it to Crowman.
Boo.
And in a year and a half, they've gotten rid of 5 apartments and renovated them. We only have 10 apartments, but we stand strong. This is going on very, very strongly everywhere. We do have to unify. It's all about unification. It's about standing strong. You know meerkats? When you see a meerkat standing together against the cobra? I hate to say bad things to about snakes, but it's good symbolism. We have to mob them. We have to mob together. We stand strong and we stand together in what we're doing.
You're here.
Stanton Street is being eaten alive. Pieces that were like 5 or 6 buildings. My building supervisor lives across the street, and they just bought that building, and already the building, someone was, I get a little scared inside when I talk about this. Everyone has fear, but you have to overcome it. The building manager has been arrested for sexual assault, and he's still there.
Wow.
I mean, they will do anything. My apartment is filled with dust from gut reno downstairs. All my art is embalmed. And this is what they do. They gut reno. They'll break through your walls. They'll do everything. It's only by standing together with good organizations, united. We have to be united. We make really fucking bad victims, right?
That's right. No, we're survivors.
We are survivors. We are the survivors. So many people are gone. And we will remain strong. And we will stay. 3 cheers. Hip, hip, hooray.
Hooray to stay. Here's to stay. Stay. Hell no, we won't go.
Hell no.
We won't go.
And I want to remind you again, 12 o'clock, 7th and 8th, anti-gentrification march. Thank you.
Saturday, thank you.
Stay strong.
Woo, Philly!
Yeah. In other words, we ain't going nowhere. With your help.
Where's Kembra?
So, bringing this now even further to the local, I think I'm going to bring one of the tenants of our building here, is David O'Rama, who grew up in the building. David was one of the 2 tenants in the building when Peter, myself, Kember, Carl George, and Yuchi Samoa Mariki moved into the building. Was basically a shell. And David and his family, his mother, the beloved Maria Orama, lived, they were like the actual real deal Lower East Side residents as we came in and became another generation of our community. So David, if you would come up and just kind of share. I'm particularly interested in hearing and elaborating on what Shafrak had introduced, is this idea of what we're calling passive-aggressive confrontation. What is it? Passive-aggressive harassment. Where, we still have like overt harassment where people are starved out of their homes, where people are threatened, where there's violence and so forth. Billy has talked about that experience. But now we're living in this era where the harassment is a little more subtle. Just kind of being made to feel like a stranger in your own home to begin with. And I'm going to let David just talk about your experience.
That was a hard act to follow, right? I was like, please, God, I hope I'm not next. And yeah, a little bit about myself. My name is David, right? I actually formerly worked at the Department of Education as a supporting staff for 10 years. What that means is I can be, the principal could put you as a dean or whatever she deems to put you as, and also a high school basketball coach. I actually left all that because I'm a die-hard, passionate man for the Lower East Side and for the people that live in the Lower East Side. I left the job to actually take on another job, actually pro bono with no pay, just to work in this neighborhood to actually help out men and young folks that actually are actually getting evicted from their homes and not having a place to stay and not having the resources and the know-how of where to go to. I want to talk really quickly about our yesteryear being raised at 245 East 2nd Street. Back then in the 80s, my family came in, and my mother came in the 1970s. We were a family of 10. Me being the youngest one. Irish, Puerto Rican, Italian, you name it. My mother had no TV back then, only a radio, if you know what I mean. So, being raised here, we had drug dealers. We had folks actually ODing in the hallways. We had folks dying actually right in front of us. Actually, for me to go to school, I had to jump over dead bodies in the hallway just to get to school. And it was really, really horrific, actually, the scene of actually what my mother had to go through. We had no working hot water not for like a week or 2 weeks like some people do. We had it for years. No hot water, no heat. We had rats. Thank God for my mother that the rats were bigger than you and me, and they would actually come into the into our apartments and walk over me as I was asleep. And my mother, thank God for her mom, right? She would actually make a tent so the rats could actually walk on top of you. She'll use branches so the rats could walk over you.
Oh my God!
And we had a long time ago a brother of ours that from another building. I don't even think Pete and Jack know about this. They were actually bitten by a rat, and he died. Actually.
Oh no!
He was 8 months old in the crib.
Oh my God!
And just to say, it was a very difficult, trying time in the mid '80s, especially when my mother was here and I was young, and we had a landlord that was, he harassed her. And being a young 18, 17-year-old boy, you know what? And my mother didn't want to go because of the facts that people were actually bringing up here today. She didn't want to go to court because she was afraid. She didn't speak too much English. So she was afraid to actually go to court on behalf of being evicted. And she didn't know her rights. And every day I would have to actually wait there and just watch this landlord curse her out and tell her that the stuff that's going on is her problem. And it was a horrendous time for all of our families at that time. And like Carolina said, I said, you know what, that was a trying time. Now the question we have to ask ourselves now today is, right, what do we do from there? How do we organize? Where do we go as a group? We just don't want to, it's a slogan that I use with the youth. I said, we can't just keep talking about it, we got to start being about it. So how do we put all this together, right, today as 245 Tenants Association as goes? How do we come together and not just for one moment or one day say, okay, let's gather this group and let's put something together on paper and then we forget 4 months later. No, it can't be that. It can't work. It can't be business as usual. It just can't, folks. If we want to have our voices heard, we have to actually unite even stronger. That means more footwork. That means more paperwork. That means more flyers. That means more getting information out to the people. That means going to the housing projects and letting them know what's going on for people that don't have the education. Because that's the problem. A lot of folks don't have the education and don't even know what's going on. So I would tell you guys, let's do something about it. It's great to listen, it's great to be a part of, but man, if we all start to take our rightful places in this neighborhood, right? And start to tell these landlords, no, listen, we're not going to accept that no more. No, we are not going to back down. No, we're going to go to court. No, that's unacceptable. And you know what? With the legal rights that are here, you know, with the attorneys of urban justice that's here, you know, we have rights. So we have to take our rightful place.
Right.
It's time for the talking and the chatter to stop. And it's time that we take our places in this neighborhood. And you know what? It's been horrendous, even with the construction that's actually going on here next to us, the harassment that's going on, you name it, they've done it. We felt actually like a hamster in a cage with them actually doing this work in the building while we're living in the building. Banging and you name it, they did it. and I'm gonna finish up over here, and my last thing to all of us is, listen, the only way this information is gonna get out there if we really come together as a group. We really have to. You know, I'm a long, die-hard, passionate man for the Lower East Side. I left everything behind because I believe, right, in the movements. I believe in equal rights, right? I believe in what's happening, but I don't believe in the gentrification that's happening. And you know what? We might be behind the ball game, right? We might be that, you know, you see all these real estate folks that are already in, and we can't really do too much about it. But there's a lot of work that we still have to do, and there's still a lot that we can do still in this neighborhood. So please don't let what you see, you know, just fool you. We still have a voice. Now the question is, how are you going to use that voice? Are you going to use it in a, you know, in a sector that's quiet, or are you going to use it like where you hear my voice at? We have to take our stand. And I urge you folks, all of us, to take your stand. Be passionate for this neighborhood, for this community. And what does passionate mean? Passionate means going beyond the measure, doing whatever it takes for the people in this neighborhood. Today I kind of, you know, put folks into housing, get them, you know, put them into colleges. Some of the men that I work in, and I hear the saddest stories of men that worked, that had an awesome job, men that, you know, that lived in this neighborhood, but are homeless in the streets. To my heart, because it's not falling on the right ears. And I plead to all of us, let's find the right ears so that this information can fall on, so that we can see movement, so that, you know what, we can find the right people that will listen, and that people would take their stand as we are taking it today. I thank you so much. Woo! And I hope and pray that we continue to fight this fight, and we continue to march on, and it won't be a one-day ordeal, but it'll be something that we come together as people. You know, I said this, and I promise you, I'm gonna close, all right? I work at the church, so you can imagine I'm kind of used to the speaking part. But imagine this: you living in a neighborhood, right, all your life for over 30 years, right, and you never saw a problem with nothing. Everyone in our buildings, it was like family. It was like, you know, the people in the neighborhood. It was an awesome time for all those years, right? Now imagine this. Now you're in your same neighborhood that you fought for, in the same place where you endured the worst of living conditions, and now you're in this place that you love, the neighborhood that you fought for so much, and now you're the outsider looking in. And now the folks that are coming into the neighborhood, it's not their fault, of course. We're not blaming it on them. The landlords, actually, right, are the ones saying, well, these are, you know, just poor folks that live in the building. And now we're the ones being looked upon, right? Looked upon like if something is wrong with us. And I don't know about you, but that feeling makes me feel kind of messed up, doesn't it? To actually be in a neighborhood where you were, you know, born and raised, and now the folks that are actually in this are looking at you less than, because of maybe the income that you make or the income that they make. And I think the lawyer from Urban Justice said it well. Listen, folks, number one, we're human. That's number one. We have to remember that. And they have to recognize that, you know what, we're just as human as them. Maybe our income doesn't add up, but that doesn't make a difference, right? So, you know, it's stuff like that that kind of tears me inside to actually want to get up and just fight for this community. So I urge everyone, listen, today, don't stop. Don't stop what you're doing. Don't stop. Don't let it be a one-or-deal thing. You, young lady, you continue that fire for the neighborhood. You continue speaking out. But more than that, you continue to gather the folks together. Let's bring folks together like Jack and Peter have been doing. Let's get the information out there. Let's work together as one team of the Lower East Side. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, David. Woo! Kembra.
Now,
Move right along.
Kemper has introduced a phrase to us that we talk about a lot. It seems loaded, but I'm really interested in it. It's economic racism. And I think David touched on that. And maybe Kemper will elucidate further. Because it talks about these ideas of how economics and finance and race and gender impact on these ways of objectification, which is part of this passive-aggressive harassment that we've been talking about. Kimber here.
Yes, Kimber.
Yeah.
Woo!
I think I might have brought that up, but it's really important.
Hi everyone. Hi neighbors. Hi people of the Lower East Side. My name is Kembra Fowler and I am an artist. I live in 245 East 2nd Street. And I've moved to the Lower East Side in 1979 as a 17-year-old girl from Malibu, California. And I'm very grateful to have been held in the hands and the loving arms of the Dominican and Puerto Rican people of the Lower East Side who embraced me as family and made sure I was safe and instilled a lot of family values and supported me as a young artist living in the neighborhood. When people are talking today about interaction and methods of staying together, I remember the beginnings of our tenant association in the early 80s and the reasons why we started our tenants group. It was essentially because, like David O'Rama said, most of 2nd Street was uninhabitable, and we didn't have a front door to our building. We had a shooting gallery, which was a place they sold keys to addicts on the street, and they would come up to the top floor and use drugs, and there was often fires in the building. So we needed to form a tenants association because conditions were so dangerous. We wanted heat and hot water. And how we did that was we went to Kinko's and made Xeroxes of notifications and stuck them around the neighborhood on everyone's doors, saying that we wanted to form a tenants group. And it was as simple as that. We started having meetings regularly, and 2nd Street has a very, very rich cultural tradition. We have the right to exist was the title of a book that Jonas Mekas gave me in the early 80s, written by an indigenous person named Wub E. Kinu, and it was about indigenous values, and it was about this group of people fighting for the right to be heard, and that book has stayed with me all of my life. Jonas Mekas is still here on 2nd Street, and other very important artists have lived in this neighborhood. Jack Smith was on First Avenue, Taylor Mead was on Ludlow Street, the Living Theater was on East 4th Street. So one of the reasons why this neighborhood is so glamorous and popular right now is because of the years of dedication and sacrifice these artists put in to make this neighborhood a destination. And so it's ironic that we're being forced out of the neighborhood as entertainers and decorators and artists. And we do have the right to exist. As someone like David was saying before, there's this feeling of being devalued because of your economic bracket that you're existing in, and that's something I felt when we tried to make friends with the new owners of our building. We didn't go into it, you know, we've got new landlords that are renovating all of the remaining apartments so that new people can come in. So it's essentially going to be half of the building will be over $4,000 a month per each unit, and then there's the apartments that are the rent stabilized apartments, long-term tenants. So how do we live together? You know, maintaining our values, our indigenous values, our I lost my train of thought. I really am not used to speaking like this, so and also just thinking about all these things, it's very emotional, and it's been a very upsetting time. You know, we've, aside from being harassed by this construction going on, we've lost sleep for the last 2 years. We've got lung infections from breathing dust. We've gotten, again, just the constant devaluation on a daily basis by new people coming in, really regarding us as less than because we are living a different lifestyle or are in a different economic bracket. And again, that's what Jack was talking about. I had thought it was economic racism, and I guess that's a term we can speak together and form a definition for, because I'm certainly not. I need you to help me understand these things as well. You know, I need the group, I need the community to help me understand what's going on and to help me know what my rights are. I just, you know, this can't be done alone, and I'm very glad that, you know, we did have we had each other, we still have each other. Coming to the Lower East Side for me was not about, this was not a stopping point, the Lower East Side. This was where I wanted to be, and this is where I want to be. This is my greatest success, being able to live in this neighborhood, to be able to remain in the city. I'm not going to go off to a better life in the future. This is the better life.
Yeah, here.
And I really love it here. And I hope to hold on to my apartment for, you know, the younger people that are coming up in my family, my niece, and the young artists that I work with. I want to be able to pass on this apartment that I've worked. You know, Jack and Peter and David and Tommy, we've all literally been in court for over 25 years, if you could imagine. And, you know, we've missed out on a lot of things by making a decision to show up to court and making a decision together to stay together and to remain a strong tenants group. So if it seems elusive to new neighbors in the building, if it seems difficult to where do you begin, you know, that's simply where we began, again, by just knocking on each other's doors, exchanging phone numbers, starting a tenants group, and then all of the information kind of came to us very organically. There was Ted Zeichner, who was our first lawyer
MFY.
at MFY, which was on Avenue A, and Goals, good old Lower East Side, is wonderful, and also Garrett Wright has been very supportive in the last 5 years with us here from Urban Justice Center, so at 123 William Street. So these places to support us exist, and again, the information was accessed just firstly by us forming our tenants group, and by realizing that it was principles before personalities, and that we should remain together irregardless of any differences that we may have had, and we've been able to stay together because of that, because of realizing that it is important that we remain here, and we do have a right to exist, and
we will.
I guess that's all I really want to say.
We will.
Except I want to express my gratitude again to Garrett Wright and to all of the people of the Lower East Side, David's Church across the street, East Side Tabernacle, to ABC No Rio, and to the first wave of artists collab that were in the neighborhood. They educated us, and a lot of the artists that I met when I got here in the early 80s are still here, and they're only still here because they made a decision to fight and to show up. And I just really love my building, and I love my neighbors, and I hope that I can stay here for a very long time because I really like it here. Thank you.
We love you. We love you, Kimber.
I think Kimber's speaking to something that is very complex, but at the same time really simple. And for me, this is how we live our lives as musicians, as artists, as creative people, and at the same time be able to sustain and survive. And I think that's where the simplicity comes in, because in our experience, we just do it. Kim, we're talking about going to court for years and years, and for us, that was another kind of performance. I mean, we dress for it. We create narratives and scenarios. It's a circus to begin with. And so just kind of like highlighting, bringing that out makes it easy for us. It makes it enjoyable. And I think that's also one of the things about activism and resistance is the pleasure of principle. Can we, like, enjoy our lives, please? Thank you very much. We're going to turn this over to our last speaker, which is my beloved Peter. But also today representing Le Petit Versailles, which I hope you'll make further connection to how our building and our lives and the garden and having a public forum and doing public acts such as they are all correlate to this idea of political and social and creative survival.
Thank you. Here, let me take that.
All right.
Happy sounds abound here on the Lower East Side. I had some prepared remarks, but I'll probably just try and speak from the heart. I'm Peter Kramer. I'm a resident of 245 East 2nd Street. I've been here since 1985. And in 1995 and in 96, we started this garden, Petit Versailles. And it's a stewardship that's made possible by Ally Productions, which is a non-profit organization that Jack and I have also started. And it maintains the garden. It makes it available to the neighborhood for events. It produces a whole season that goes year-round now. We have multiple installations in the garden that have been part of our long history. And it's been a real godsend to have this garden. I want to speak. Speak a little further behind these speakers. Just what it is to have a commitment to a neighborhood and to your friends and to the people around you that you know are living their lives in whatever fashion and as best they're able, and knowing that there's a common ground that we can find solidarity in being here to create something like this garden, to fight for years and years to remain in our building. It's something that's so essential to our core to have this commitment to our right to be here, our struggle. We're very proud of our abilities to take on the challenges that this neighborhood has, and we're ready to take on the new challenges that come with the ongoing change and gentrification of the neighborhood. I'm not sure how much more I really want to say, other than that I'm really pleased to see so many faces here in the garden, and that the weather is turning and we're prepared for the coming celebration of Beltane. Today is May 1st, the great high holiday, one might say, of celebrating the spring, and we'll be celebrating Beltane here with members of the Radical Fairy community, and part of this action today was an attempt to put a little more radical into that creed and credo, and realize that one can be creative and one can celebrate, but one can also demonstrate, and they all conjoin to make our voices heard in a clear and distinct way. So after this gathering, the gathering will continue. There'll be our maypole is here on the north side in the corner there, ready to be decorated. We have ribbons for everyone to attach to the top, and we'll bring down painting supplies, and we'll just get crafty here. Bring back craftivism to the Lower East Side and to Petit Versailles. So you're more than welcome to stay. You're more than invited to participate. We figure, you know, the maypole dance will happen. We might actually strike the tent.
Yay.
Because the pole is a little, we'd have to do it in such a wonky configuration, it wouldn't quite work. So we may do that in the interim between 12 and 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock is when the maypole dance will begin. But I would like to say, to call all the fairies within earshot that they're welcome to come and enjoy our determination to stay here on the Lower East Side and continue to make the glorious beauty that is New York City. Let's celebrate New York City. Let's celebrate public space. Public space is essential. The public is us, and without us, the city doesn't really function. It just becomes, we become victims of someone else's devices. And so, thank you all.
So there's your pleasure. Self-pay. Let the festivities begin. Well, actually, they already have begun. Because it's a beautiful day. It's the beautiful first day of May. I may even do my Elizabethan May dance, so watch out. So that said, wrap up this talky session with letting you know that we promised resources and ways that we can actually make this active. So I'm going to ask everyone to stay tuned to our website. It's alliedproductions.org. And then we'll have links and connections to goals, to Urban Justice Center, to just various resources that we found that have helped us a lot. And then also as a kind of a connecting fabric, among others, that we can just kind of continue this, both, with words and deed. So thanks again, everybody, for sharing, and thanks for coming. And let's get on with the lovely month of May.
Is that the property line there? No. Hola.
the floating cam.
Yeah.
My phone is in your apartment somewhere.
Your photos.
Phone.
Oh, your phone?
Yeah.
Huh. Well.